20 for 20% off your order. Stand with the rebels and never back down.
Good evening, America. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the latest edition of, you know it, just the news, no noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you as always from the nation's capital. Now, we've got a lot to get to tonight, starting with new demands by Democrats on the final Homeland Security spending package. Yep, we got a 2-week reprieve on that. You're going to get a laugh when you hear some of the things that Democrats want. But first, Senate Majority Leader John Thune was not happy about what Democrats are doing. The leader called the demands, quote, totally unrealistic, noting that the list from Democrats went from 3 to 10 items. Now, that 10-point list includes, I'm not joking, a judicial warrant requirement for arresting illegal aliens, a ban on agents wearing masks, requiring visible ID. They don't want them for voting, but they want them for ICE agents, ending racial profiling, blocking agent stops in protected areas, and a number of other concessions. And if Democrats and Republicans can't come to terms by February 13th, a new partial shutdown would be in effect, just part of the Homeland Security Department, very small. Remember, we told you earlier in the week, ICE is already fully funded for 5 years, so they can't touch that. We also have a new reporting to bring to you on China and the Communist Chinese Party's operations here inside the United States. The details are pretty shocking. We'll have an entire special tomorrow night to bring you up to date on FBI Director Kash Patel. The NIH Director, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, is going to be here to talk about what we call China syndrome, the massive number of Chinese academics who have snuck into our universities with visas, working on highly sensitive projects. And now we've got a couple examples of Chinese nationals operating biolabs, illegal biolabs, on American soil, in homes, in suburban neighborhoods. One in California in 2023, one this past weekend in Nevada. And we were able to report today, through the good reporting of Jerry Dunleavy, that those two labs, they're connected. Same people involved in both. Somehow, we broke out one lab and they just moved to another place and kept it going. Not a good sign for our defenses here in America. We're going to delve into that a lot more tomorrow night. The FBI Director, Kash Patel, is going to tell us what led them to that extraordinary discovery of the biolab in Las Vegas. So be sure to tune in. Now, let me turn to my amazing co-host, Amanda Head. She's still on assignment tonight, but she always joins us. She doesn't miss a night. She's been watching headlines. Amanda, what's on your radar?
Indeed, John. Well, we're going to have some conversations tonight about how the Biden administration completely flouted federal law. And we talked about this for the last few years when President Biden was in office. But it's Nancy Pelosi out there. I want to show you all this clip of her. She's asserting that it's President Trump who is actually using his power to undermine the Constitution, the law of the land. It's pretty interesting what she had to say. Check it out.
Let us be clear, attacks on journalism are attacks on the American people's right to know, and attempts to undermine a free press are attempts to undermine the Constitution and democracy itself. We have a president who has crowned himself king, a Congress which has abolished itself, and a Supreme Court that has gone rogue. Our First Amendment, a free and independent press, the Fourth Estate, is essential to the survival of our republic.
Crowned himself king. Very, very interesting. All right, I want to show you guys another clip. Many of us remember during the Biden administration, I was in California at the time. I vividly remember one time paying $7.56 for 1 gallon of gas. Of course, egg prices exploded and cumulative inflation during Joe Biden's one term reached, I think, about 23%. So it was a devastating time economically. And yet, even though President Trump has only been in office barely a year, oh no, all of the problems that happened under Joe Biden and all of the fiscal pressures that the American people are feeling, they're all Donald Trump's fault. Check this out.
Senator, it may be a bit nuanced for you, but what President Trump is referring to is the media saying that the affordability crisis was generated by this administration when it was you and President Biden who destroyed the buying power of the American people. So there is an affordability crisis, and you were front and center in it.
Secretary Besson is a fantastic messenger for this administration when it comes to the economy. But I also want to move on to another messenger, the official messenger of this administration, Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who was speaking about Americans' approval of the deportations that are taking place. Speaking about this from the podium, here it is.
Despite desperate recent attempts by Democrats and those in the media to undermine the president's deportation agenda, these efforts are failing. Brand new Harvard-Harris polling shows overwhelming support for President Trump's efforts to protect law-abiding citizens from criminal illegal aliens. Nearly 8 in 10 Americans say criminal illegal aliens should be deported. A solid majority also support deporting all illegal aliens, regardless of additional crimes.
And John, that spans across race. And it wasn't just the Harvard Caps Harris poll. It was also a Signal poll and dozens of other polls that have showed the same results over the last few months. Absolutely.
Yeah. Scott Rasmussen, 2 years of solid polling. I just want to remind all of those guys, the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers and the others who are literally spewing propaganda. They said voter ID was Jim Crow, and then Georgia imposed it in spite of them. Yeah, they canceled the Major League All-Star game to punish, but Georgia passed, and you know what happened? Voting went up. Voting went up significantly. You know why? Because people trusted it. So for those, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer need to be debunked on the facts. It's not Jim Crow. It actually encourages more voting, and that's something we got to get the story out on more and more. All right, a guy who knows a thing or two about election integrity because he lives in a great state for it, Florida. He's a new member of Congress, but one of its most candid and really in the middle of a lot of the most exciting things going on. Congressman Randy Fine joins us at the top of the show today. Congressman, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I want to start with these. You had me snickering and laughing just before we came on air. You have a good way of looking at this list of 10 demands that the Democrats have put on GOP. You see a silver lining, don't you?
Well, I do. I mean, look, they seem to now say they want IDs for everyone. They want ICE to be able to show IDs. I presume that means they want voters to be able to show IDs when they go vote. They say they don't want people to wear masks anymore. Well, I would assume that includes the Muslim terror protesters that we see all over our country who hide their faces. I mean, they want everyone to be able to identify themselves. I assume that means the protesters should have to say who's paying them when they're out protesting. I mean, look, Democrats aren't smart. If they were, they wouldn't be Democrats. And so these demands are ridiculous, particularly when you look at the logical fallacy that they only want to apply them in certain situations.
How on earth would they even enforce these? I mean, one of the stipulations is to stop racial profiling, but Border Czar Tom Homan has spoken frequently about the fact that when they go into Hispanic neighborhoods or they go to a market area somewhere in the community, it's because they have received a tip. So how do they even enforce it?
Well, the goal is not to stop racial profiling. The goal is to stop deportation. So the idea is you make a set of demands that are so outrageous and so egregious, it's impossible to comply with them. Their goal is not to improve the deportation of criminal legal immigrants. Their goal is to stop all deportations for 3 reasons. Number 1, they can't win elections without illegals voting. Number 2, they'll lose so many seats in Congress because the Americans are leaving these blue states because they're sick of the craziness and they're moving to places like Florida. And number 3, they need the grift from all the welfare scams that these illegal immigrants are involved in to fund all the other nefarious activities they're involved in. They don't want better enforcement of immigration laws. They want no enforcement of immigration laws.
Yeah, and that turns to a favorite subject of mine, sir, because you've been all over this, and I think you describe it really well. The census, which Donald Trump in 2020 had arranged so that it would not count illegal aliens, so that people who break the law and move to states don't get the benefit of representation or financial funds, federal funding. As soon as Joe Biden came in, they reversed that. They count illegal aliens because it boosts up the apportionment and the representation. But if you take that away, and you've done the work on this, what happens to Congress if you don't count illegal aliens in these blue states?
So here's the situation. Not all states are equally hospitable for illegal immigrants. So Florida, for example, where every law enforcement agency in the state is working in partnership with ICE to round up and deport illegal immigrants, a lot of them are saying, we don't want to be here. So they'll go to places like Minneapolis or New York where they say, come on down, we love us some illegals. Well, if you count every person, not every American in the census, you end up over allocating congressional seats to states that have lots of illegal immigrants. There are only 435 members of Congress. They have to be allocated using a formula. And so you've got a bunch of congressional seats in states that simply don't deserve them. I have news for you. Illegal immigrants don't deserve representatives in Congress. So we need to change how the census works to only count American citizens. To frankly, because these are the people that we're supposed to be working for. Our job is not to be working for illegal. Frankly, our job's not to be working for legal immigrants. Our job is to be working for Americans, and that's how the census ought to be structured.
Is there a thirst in Congress amongst Republicans right now to make that a priority?
Absolutely. And I think the way we make it a priority is continuing to be focused on deportations, deporting every single illegal immigrant. But there is legislation that I'm supporting that would simply say for the next census, you cannot count illegal immigrants. But hopefully we won't need to do that because we won't have any illegal immigrants anymore. That's the best solution, is to get them gone because they cause so many problems. I mean, the number one reason houses are so expensive in America is because of illegal immigrants. When you have 20 million people who shouldn't be here living in our houses and our apartments, that boosts the prices for everyone. So the single greatest thing we can do to improve the lives of actual Americans is get every one of these illegals out of here and send them home.
You talked about the strategy that Democrats have to get as many non-citizens on the voter rolls. I used to say that was a conspiracy theory, like Joe Biden didn't get money from China and things like that. We know now there's been audits in the last couple of years. Tens of thousands of non-citizens have made it on the rolls all across this country, Texas even, and all across. So your caucus, and Steve Scalise was on the show last night, announced this on the show last night. You're going to vote on the Save America Act, which combines citizenship checks for registration with voter ID and voting. Probably the best two-step process to make sure non-citizens don't get into the election system. Will it get through the House first? And what do you want to see done to pressure your Republican colleagues in the Senate to get it through that reluctant body?
Well, I think it'll get through the House. I think it's a suicide mission if you're a Republican to vote against voter ID and citizenship verification. I don't know why anyone would be against that, because the only reason to be against that is because you want to cheat. The Democrats' notion that making people have a photo ID to vote is Jim Crow 2.0 is about the most racist thing I've ever heard of, because what it's saying is that black people are unable to get a photo ID. And I just think that's a disgusting statement to make towards racial minorities who, frankly, can get a photo ID just as easily as anybody else. As it relates to the Senate, look, the Senate, we have to change some rules. I don't know that Democrats will ever vote for this. Now, frankly, they should, because these two policies are overwhelming. There are 80-20 issues, but if seven Democrat senators won't vote for it, the Senate needs to stop with the silent veto of the silent filibuster and make them do a talking filibuster, just like Jimmy Stewart did years ago and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. If they want to stand up and talk for 24 hours about why making people have a photo ID is such a bad idea, let them make that argument, because it's a ridiculous argument and one the American people will wholeheartedly reject.
Absolutely. And I mean, the CNN poll from just a few days ago, 76% of Black Americans and 82% of Hispanic Americans support nationwide voter ID. I don't know why they're still fighting for it. I want to get to the issue of Minnesota before we go. What we are seeing in Minnesota at this point kind of seems like the problem child of this country. But if Democrats, if they have these 10 provisions that they want to impose, would that, if Republicans say yes, does that end it? And does that help the situation at all?
Well, it depends on your definition. If you're Democrats, it sure does, because it gives amnesty. And so we stop deportations, and you keep all of your illegal voters and your census boosters and your fraud getters in this country. That is never going to pass. Republicans will never go for that. Donald Trump was elected on a mandate for mass deportations. The American people still want it. Can some of these things be done? Can we do body cameras? Sure. I don't think body cameras give give Democrats what they want because they find out that the stories they tell turn out to be true. And I think we should also be pointing out the logical fallacies, as I've talked about. The idea that an ICE agent can't be masked, but a Muslim terrorist threatening people in New York can be. I mean, I think we go and we make those arguments head on. But make no mistake, the goal is to shut down deportations, and we're just not going to let that happen.
Yeah, pretty clear message, as we always get whenever you come on, Congressman. Great to have you on the show today. Thanks for joining us. I can't wait to see how the next few weeks play out. A lot of history right on our doorstep. Good to have you on. Thanks, sir. Thanks for having me. Anytime. Yeah, certainly enjoy the conversation every time. All right, folks, you remember the Empower Whistleblower Center? They've done some extraordinary work. Remember the IRS agents, the FBI agents? They got a new whistleblower inside the Education Department that reveals that the Biden administration was bullying local schools to push transgender men into women's sports, even though a federal judge said they couldn't do that. Tristan Leavitt's going to break that story down for us. First time you've ever heard it. I think you'll enjoy it. Next, right after these messages. Hey folks, take a drive through any major city after sunset and you'll notice something strange. Dark windows, empty offices. Right now, 1 in 5 commercial buildings in America is sitting vacant. Even here in Washington, D.C., nearly $1 trillion in real estate loans are coming due this year. If those buildings stay empty, the banks take a hit. And those are the same banks where your retirement savings likely sit. There's a new free report called the Ghost Tower Index that breaks it all down. It uncovers 7 early warning signs that showed up before every major crash since 1929. And all 7 are active again right now. This won't make the evening news, but it could help protect your savings from what's coming. Download it free at johnlikesgold.com or call 855-GOLD-340 to get your copy mailed to you. That's johnlikesgold.com or 855-GOLD-340.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
I've always followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer. In the moments I'm afraid, there's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience.
Welcome back, everybody. The Trump administration has already made a lot of progress when it comes to reinforcing Title IX and protecting women's sports across the country. But there's still more work to do, especially because we have yet to really understand the full extent of the damage that the Biden administration did. We are still awaiting reporting from the Department of Education about how the Biden administration ignored a court order and bullied local school districts into enacting radical transgender ideology. Joining us now to talk about that and much more is former congressional investigator and current president of Empower Oversight. He is also a West Virginia state legislator and friend of the show, Tristan Leavitt. Thanks so much for being here. Now that we have someone like President Trump in office who values protecting women and girls in sports, in locker rooms, in schools, in environments that should not be co-ed, thankfully we can now refer to this report as almost like an autopsy. What do you think we are going to learn from this report? Because after all, it was one of your whistleblowers who prompted it.
Well, this report centers around a case that was brought in Tennessee. West Virginia, where I'm a delegate, was one of 20 states there to join in this case. And it really centered around the Biden administration's very radical ideology that tried to push under Title IX before even bothering to change the regulations. And a judge in Tennessee told them that they could not do that without following a certain procedure. Even then, it ultimately got invalidated. But our client came forward and noted that even after the judge put in a court order, an injunction prohibiting this being applied, after a period of time, the Department of Education under the Biden administration just decided to do it anyway, very knowingly. And so I think it's very important for accountability and for stopping this from happening in the future that this report come forward from the Department of Education right now to identify who ignored the court orders, who has culpability, where discipline is necessary. Again, it's very difficult to prevent something like this from happening in the future if there aren't consequences for this kind of bad action in the past. So we hope this will have those kinds of details and allow us to fully have an accounting of what went wrong and why people would think it was okay to ignore the court.
Yeah. Tristan, your group has represented some extraordinary whistleblowers, the IRS whistleblowers against Hunter Biden, the FBI agents who were wrongly punished because they were conservative or just simply raised questions against the status quo. In this case, you have another whistleblower. What did he or she observe that prompted this extraordinary investigation that's now underway?
Well, he worked within the Department of Education, and he was very aware of the court order, as all of the legal folks were inside the department. And yet he very much saw how they initially, waffled. What are we going to do about this court order? They kind of made some noises externally as though they might follow it. And then ultimately, when the public pressure built up, especially around the case of Next Benedict in Oklahoma, so the Owasso School District, they just said, well, there's too much political pressure. We're going to go in. We're going to open an investigation. And again, the thing to remember with these investigations is you have local school districts. They're just trying to do the best they can. And then you have the federal government, the feds coming in and saying, we're investigating whether you violated this law. It puts immense pressure on the school districts. And it really kind of coerces them into saying, well, we'll do whatever we need to do to get out from under your scrutiny here. And so, they just have such a big ability to sway school districts, to bully them into compliance, even when a judge had told them not to be talking to school districts about this. So the whistleblower saw that firsthand. He was aware that people within the Department of Education knew that he didn't feel comfortable with it, that they flagged that this was prohibited by a judge, and they forged ahead anyway. They said, well, we'll give it to other people to do. And it wasn't just this one case. There were potentially dozens of cases, but that's part of what this report is so necessary to find out.
Wow.
Well, Tristan, it seems so often with this case and many others that we've had you on the show to talk about, it seems like the Biden administration created a culture that bended more to political and cultural pressure than it did the actual law.
Absolutely. And again, in this instance, when you've got, school districts on the hook for it, any of our school districts, there are multiple different states of the 20. The Biden administration was allowed to do this in other states, but of these 20 states, these conservative states that said, here, not in my backyard, and there was just a total disregard for the law in the Biden Department of Education.
So now the question comes to what could be the consequences when this report comes out? Obviously, the whistleblower can be protected, it can be validated, but does the current education department go to the judge and seek sanctions against prior or existing federal employees? Is there a lawsuit that the school district could find? What would be the ultimate accountability should the report affirm, as we expect, what your whistleblower observed?
At the very least, there should be consequences for any employees who are still with the Department of Education, and we have reason to believe that some of them still may be, who were a part of this. I think beyond that, this is part of why it's such a drain on the taxpayers. There could be legal liability, right? The judge, on being informed, may issue sanctions, and those could impact the current administration. But that the costs of that are things that are a price we may have to pay because of the reckless actions of the Biden administration. If I I understand correctly, there has been a lawsuit in Oklahoma related to that specific case. Right. Because, again, the implication of it was that other children did wrong, other parents did wrong, that the school district did wrong somehow in not following this radical trans guidance. And so I think that there could potentially be a lot of ramifications. But the most immediate ones are anyone who's still within the Department of Education who knowingly ignored this court order needs to have accountability.
And if I could just follow up
Tristan.
quickly, if you just real quickly, does that potentially mean that someone could be found in contempt of court or prosecuted? Does the immunity of a federal employee that they normally have in official actions go away if it's shown that they knowingly and willfully ignored a court's order?
To be honest, I haven't looked closely at that issue, but I think they definitely could be held in contempt. Whether they could be prosecuted, I think, is a more complicated legal issue. But no question, if they disregarded a court order, contempt would certainly be within the judge's reach.
Wow. Big deal.
Tristan, I want to draw on another aspect of your experience. We have you on this show in your capacity as a congressional investigator, as someone who sticks out his neck for whistleblowers, but you're also a dad of a very large family. And, yesterday was National Girls and Women in Sports Day. We now have President Trump in office, and he is fighting to adhere to the original intent of Title IX after years of the Biden administration and the Obama administration to really trying to play funny games with it. What is the future of Title IX look like if President Trump is succeeded by another Democrat?
Well, it is interesting because of the Biden administration, so many of these issues states waded into, right? And so West Virginia was part of and leading a lawsuit, and it was just heard by the Supreme Court recently because of laws that this state passed, that other states have passed, and, young women refusing to compete against others, just given the unfairness of that. And of course, that extends to locker rooms and other areas. So I think this really is a significant issue that ultimately will, to some extent, be decided by who the president is. Of course, Congress is equally important, right? They're the ones who pass Title IX. If there are going to be any changes to the law, they should have to come through Congress. But we know that, again, the Biden administration totally ignored Congress and just implementing its own interpretation of a law that, was passed long before transgender questions ever became a subject of national discussion. So I think this very much does impact that. I have 4 daughters. 3 of the 4 of them have played sports. The 4th might. She's young yet. So I think this just really has an impact on everyday Americans all over the country. And it's important that we do everything we can to protect our children, especially young women and girls.
Yeah, no doubt
absolutely.
about it.
Yeah. President of Empower Oversight, our good friend Tristan Leavitt, thanks so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We look forward to hearing what transpires from that report. All right, everybody, we're going to take a very quick break, and we will be back on the other side.
From powerhouse vocalist Natasha Owens, known for standout singles like Trump One and Somali Waltz, comes her brand new release, The Boss, released on Real America's Music, the label built to amplify unapologetically American voices. The Boss gives a voice to everyday Americans and reminds listeners who truly shapes the future. Not the elites, not the gatekeepers, but the people. Now it's your turn. The Real America's Voice audience has the power to move charts and shake the industry. Push it up the charts. Make them notice.
Scan the QR code or search The Boss on iTunes and pre-save it now. Let's do this together.
Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but...
This is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with Alex Stein. Coming soon to Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, America. One of the favorite things we like to do on the show is to introduce you to new candidates. Every year there's open elections. There's a lot of open seats in Congress coming up in the 2026 election. A lot of Republicans have retired. Some Democrats have retired. And so we like to bring you some of the new faces that are coming into politics to fill those seats. Joining us now is a candidate to fill the seat that represents Georgia's 14th Congressional District. Yeah, that's former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. She is a Republican candidate, Reagan Box. Reagan, great to have you on the show.
Great to be on here. Thank you for having me.
It is great to have you. There's so much going on in Georgia that's national news, like the raid at the warehouse. But before we get to that, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for the seat.
So a little bit about me. I've had the most weird random life you can ever imagine. After high school, I went to college for 5 years, studied art and history in Paris, France, was a runway model, did shark and sea turtle research in the Florida Keys, mission work in Costa Rica. And then I quit college and moved out west and learned how to break, train, and show cutting horses on a national level. I'm running for Congress because I've been sick and tired the last several years of watching nothing get done in Congress, and I'm watching people suffer. So I'm going up there to make a change and make a difference.
That's great.
Reagan, when you get up there, I mean, you know, it's a tough place to be, and it's a place where there are, shall we say, congealed ways of life and ways of governing. How do you break that attitude and break that habit, I suppose?
You know, I think it's about getting the people involved. We saw on January 6th that they're scared of we the people. And I'm not saying we need to angrily protest, but we need to go up there and let our voices be heard and tell them we're sick and tired of all this. Nothing in our lives has to be the way it is, but it's this way because people are complacent and think they can get away with it.
Yeah, really important. I want to ask a little bit about election integrity. It's a lot better in Georgia than it was because of the 2022 law, the very law that, of course, Democrats said was Jim Crow. And then, of course, you implement it in Georgia and voting goes up. So apparently it wasn't a repressive law. But we're still trying to come to grips with what happened in 2020. The FBI raided the Georgia warehouse near Atlanta recently, seized about 700 boxes. We know that the search warrant says that they're looking at laws that prohibit fraud by election workers not complying with regulations or state laws. How has that been received in Georgia? How's it specifically been received by the constituents in your district?
I think people are really happy. I think the low voter turnout is because people think their votes don't matter. They know there's so much fraud that they're going to be tuned out. That's the bottom line. I mean, people just don't think they matter anymore.
Yeah.
What do you do up on Capitol Hill about that?
Well, I think it's Section 5 of the Constitution. Article 1, Section 5 says actually Congress is in control of that. And I would actually like to force each state to purge their voter rolls and make everyone re-register with license, proof of citizenship, and proof of residency. I think that would be a wonderful start on cleaning up our voting.
Yeah, big vote coming next week in the House. The Save America Act is going to do all three of those things, actually, and then it'll go over to the Senate. It'll be interesting. All right, you're succeeding a woman that was pretty wildly popular in her district. She was pretty popular on TV for a long time. Used to come on the show all the time, MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She recently said she thinks that MAGA turned out to be a lie, at least from her perspective. How do you deal with that in your own race, and where are you when it comes to President Trump, his policies, and the MAGA movement?
I love President Trump and what he's done. I think he's done a lot to help and push our country forward. I think most of the constituents feel the same way. Now, as far as Marjorie's popularity in the district, last poll I looked for her in December only gave her a 19% approval rating. So her antics were really waiting on.
It went down, didn't it?
Yeah, drastically.
Yeah.
Reagan, speaking of President Trump's policies, we've been having conversations about, the way that the media is portraying what's happening in Minneapolis versus the polling that shows that the American people are still, by and large, behind the deportation of not just criminal illegal aliens, but all illegal aliens. Do you find that that's going to be a big issue in your district heading into this next term of Congress?
I don't. I think the people honestly want it, but as far as the media, I think we need to repeal what Obama did in 2014 with the Smith Modernization Act, allowing for the propaganda to be used on people. I think this is why the American people are so polarized. They don't know what they're truly being told is true or false, and so we fall into several different camps and narratives with this.
Reagan, I've looked at some of the stuff that you've been working on and your campaign, some of your policy positions. One of those is dear to my heart. I spent a lot of time unraveling Russia collusion and the abuses of FBI and the Intelligence Committee against President Trump and all that followed from that, all the way up to Jack Smith in between Ukraine impeachment. You are really committed to not only getting the truth out about what happened, but holding people accountable and creating solutions so that future abuses don't occur again. Talk a little bit about how important that is to you.
So this is a very interesting part of my past that makes me so trained in this. My grandfather was the youngest person ever signed on to the FBI under Hoover at 19 years old.
Wow.
And the second in command of the FBI has actually written a book and includes several stories about how great and wonderful my grandfather was. And I've had several of the agents, the head of the GBI, former head of the GBI here in Georgia, and FBI agents that worked with him that know I'm running, and they said they will work with me to write laws to get the FBI under control because it breaks their hearts to see what it's turned into.
Wow. Who was your grandfather?
Al Millard. You'll have to look him up. He was also the sheriff of Walker County, Georgia. He was truly phenomenal. In 1983, he stopped $8 billion worth of drugs from coming into Northwest Georgia. One of the largest drug fights in U.S. history.
What a legacy to have. Well, Reagan, we're going to be watching closely your election down in Georgia. This is one of the fun ones that everyone's going to be watching. I'll be sure to get you back on the show again. But thanks for joining us and introducing yourself to our audience.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. All right, folks, coming up next, because of how easy it is to commit home title theft, we're going to take a look at how to protect yourself from this growing crime. We've been talking to FBI agents, people who committed the crime. It's getting more and more real every day. We want to make sure you're protected. We'll have that next from our good friends at Home Title Lock right after these messages.
This is a monumental moment in American culture. This Sunday, Real America's Voice and Real America's Music come together to do what the mainstream industry won't. Take the music back. Starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, we go live with exclusive free coverage of the Turning Point USA All-American Halftime Show, a patriotic alternative. For years, the left has weaponized the music industry, using it to push politics, erase values, and divide the country. That ends now. This all-American halftime show exists to celebrate American pride, traditional values, and artists who still stand with the heartland. Featuring Kid Rock, Bradley Gilbert, Lee Brice, and Gabby Barrett, artists who connect with real Americans. Join us live for coverage that turns the music industry on its head. Real America's Voice, Real America's Music, the TPUSA All-American Halftime Show. Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but...
This is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off, Max.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with Alex Stein. Coming soon to Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, everybody. If you are a homeowner, it is now more important than ever to protect yourself against one of America's fastest growing crimes, home title theft. And you'd think that home title theft would be perpetuated by strangers, but that is not always the case. For example, a Manhattan man was sentenced to 6 months behind bars and 4 years probation for falsifying records to steal his 87-year-old grandfather-in-law's home. So joining us now to discuss this and more, an Emmy and multi-award-winning news anchor and investigative reporter who has recently been spending his time researching the growing crime of title theft, home title theft. John Sommer. John, great to have you back with us.
Likewise, Amanda, good to see you. And John, yeah, this is really well, I'm going to segue off of the issue of integrity and trust, because here's an attorney in Manhattan who is setting up trust accounts or, basically trying to create documents to pass on property to his client's family. And he would customarily, when he was doing these documents, he would transfer the title or deed to the property into his name. But here's the worst part. His wife's grandfather was just put into a nursing home, and he transferred the grandfather's title into his name, which was set up to be able to take care of him and then pass on to the family. And they didn't find out about it until it was way too late. He was arrested, he was charged, he's in prison, but it just shows you how many different ways this crime of title or deed theft can be done.
It really is remarkable. In this case, it feels personal. You got relatives involved. Sometimes it's a total stranger living in a foreign country that's pulling this off using AI. Sometimes it's people much closer to an inner circle of a family member who gets defrauded. In either case, the path to getting recovery is pretty difficult. It doesn't matter which way you go. Talk a little bit about what happens if you get stung by one of these fraudsters. It's a long time to recover, isn't it?
Yeah, in most cases, John, you got to go through the civil system to recover your property, and you got to pay a lot of money for an attorney, and it's just a mess. But it's a growing crime right now, and there are ways to defend yourself against it. And in most of these cases with this guy in Manhattan, these were elderly people that were taking advantage. They didn't know. But if they had a system to be able to kind of monitor their homes and so on, they may have been able to, stop this crime. But it's a growing crime, and it's terrible.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, John, we talked about this with him. Yeah, and it is a crime, but some states don't really even look at it as a crime, do they?
Yeah, we've talked about this, Amanda. The New York State, where this guy was, they do consider it a crime, but only recently, within the last year or so. But many states don't because, they just think, okay, somebody steals the title to the deed to your home, and then you go through the civil system. And it takes years and years sometimes. People get evicted from their homes. It's just a horrible thing, but there's no reason why you have to deal with this, because there are ways to protect yourself.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I want to get that in a second, but before we do, we had a fascinating interview. Sitting alongside me just a couple days ago, John was a contractor for the Pentagon. He's been working on the AI realm since AI first began, and he said something profound on the show, which is about 70%, only 70% of what's floating around in the digital sphere today, meaning is accurate, meaning 30% is manipulated or false or fraudulent in some way. He's building programs to help the government wrestle that to the ground. But I begin to think about that. The cyber world, cyber criminals, they're making this home title theft a lot easier and a lot more rampant in recent weeks. Isn't that right?
Absolutely. I mean, in fact, I had lunch with a friend of mine that deals with this. This AI thing is crazy stuff. And, in the old days, 25 years ago or so, a crook would go down to the county clerk's office and they could transfer the deed. They wouldn't ask him a question. And so, like this attorney, for instance, you can get a notary stamp offline and so on. But nowadays, it's so easy to do with artificial intelligence, and it's scary, and you need a system to protect yourself. And I work with a company, Home Title Lock, that is actually the pioneers in the industry, and they've devised a system where they will monitor your title, which you can't do unless you take a mattress and lie in the county clerk's office and ask questions every 5 minutes. Even then, it can happen so fast. And there are criminal entities out there, and there are people that can do this crime so easily, and you need to protect yourself. So Home Title Lock actually monitors your title 24/7. They will alert you if there's something funky going on, and then they will work with you to restore the title, because otherwise, as I said before, you have to go through the civil system, and it takes years, and it's just a big mess. So I would recommend just getting a service.
John, I think there are probably some folks out there who think, because we've had conversations with you about Graceland, about baseball stadiums. I mean, and it doesn't always happen on a grand scale. I mean, this could be someone who only has, $50, $100, $150, $200,000 worth of equity in their home. They don't discriminate, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not funny, but Graceland and Petco Park down in San Diego, they were taken by title theft. It's really easy to do, but it's easy to protect yourself. There are so many stories out there, Amanda and John. Gosh, every day, I find some new way that somebody has done it. But again, you need to protect yourself, and I recommend this company. And just go online, go onto their website, HometitleLock.com. You can get a 30-day trial. There is a code that you can use, your viewers and listeners can use, JTN, which I don't know how this happened. It's like amazing coincidence, but it stands for just the news. And
that's right.
Try it out. They'll do a free scan on your home and protect yourself. It's like any kind of other. It's not an insurance. It's just a safeguard.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys really do. Yeah, you guys do an incredible job. And John, we always love having you here. Emmy and multi-award-winning news anchor and investigative reporter John Sommer, always bringing the goods on Home Title Lock. Thanks so much, sir.
Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, John. Take care.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Same to you.
Thanks.
All right, everybody. And to our viewers, if you are looking to protect your home from the growing crime of home title theft, visit HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report. Home Title Lock provides 24-hour monitoring, urgent alerts, and if you ever are a victim of home title theft, their restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title. They call it the $1 million triple lock protection, and you can get a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection by going to HomeTitleLock.com and using promo code JTN. That's HomeTitleLock.com, promo code JTN. We're going to take a break. We'll be back on the other side.
Freedom to speak your mind, freedom to protest policies you don't like, freedom to start a business, freedom to own property, freedom to vote, freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything, their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but...
This is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatforming works.
She wants to kill babies, but she's still beautiful. Look at that booty on AOC. That's my favorite big booty Latina.
Politics, culture, hypocrisy.
They want them to have their penises cut off.
Uncensored and uncontrolled.
Cut your penis off, Max.
That's what I'm saying. They admit they want to cut people's penises off.
Late night just got dangerous. After Hours with Alex Stein. Coming soon to Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, everybody. To finish up for the evening, you know, President Trump is one of those folks where he identifies a problem and he just tries to find the most common sense way of fixing it. And high drug prices is something that's been in his crosshairs for a while. He talked about matching the most favored nation's prices for Americans because it's only fair. And in just a few minutes, President Trump is going to be making an announcement about the new Trump RX platform. It is a direct-to-consumer drug website. So what can we expect President Trump to talk about? Joining us now to give us the rundown is RAV congressional correspondent Benny Harmony. Benny, welcome to the show.
Good evening, Amanda, John. Thank you guys for having me.
So happy to have you. And I know there are a lot of Americans out there, you know, as a country, I think everyone wishes that we could be a healthier country and that we wouldn't need prescriptions. But the reality is there are a lot of chronic diseases and issues out there that people do need medication for. So this sounds like something that's going to be a major, major helper for the American people. What do you expect him to say?
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. So this is something that President Trump has been speaking about not only since the past government shutdown with the Affordable Care Act, the subsidies, and bringing a different idea to healthcare. That's the whole idea, is to put an end to big pharma. Now, Republicans, conservatives for a very long time have been talking about that. And I want to put something in perspective to you guys. And I just talked about this on social media. Insurance companies, the whole idea of this is to take insurance companies out of the mix and stop putting money in these billionaire and these millionaires' pockets, and to take those insurance companies out, right? So usually an insurance company, they take they upcharge 40 to 60% on those drugs that we are buying, and that goes directly into their pocket. So in this this announcement happening behind us here at the White House, we expect President Trump to announce this in a very bold way to connect those Americans with the drug manufacturers. Take those insurance companies out, stop putting money in their pocket, and give Americans the chance to choose for their own, to choose what what they want when it comes to these drug prices. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is, I don't know about you guys, but have you ever heard of Zofran? It is a nausea drug, and doctors can go get this drug for about $3 per pack. And if you are to go to Walgreens through your insurance company, you are paying $60 to $70 just for a pack of 14 dissolvable tablets. It's absolutely insane.
Wow, that gives you a sense. I couldn't think of a better day. We're 6-7 minutes away from the announcement. The website is live. I just checked it. And just earlier today, Elizabeth Warren's like, President Trump's making everything more expensive. He deserves the blame. Gas is down, eggs are down, food's down, and prescription prices are down in a big way with these deals. It's Trump's ultimate comeback today to Liz Warren, I guess, by doing this tonight, right?
No, absolutely. And like you said, almost everything that we have seen has come down. We look at eggs, we look at groceries, we look at gas, we look at drug prices now. How can the Democrats, John, I'm genuinely curious, how can they say he's making things more expensive when every single fact and evidence shows otherwise? I don't understand. Elizabeth Warren, she needs to go. Let's just be quite honest there. Her time is done. It's time for people like President Trump to step up, lower prices, and put the American people first. We are tired of special interest getting the benefit while the Americans suffer. It's not okay. And President Trump knows how to do this better than anyone.
That statistic about Zofran is crazy because Zofran's been around forever. There are generic versions of it, so that's crazy that it can still be so expensive. The insurance companies are a big part of the equation, but there is another part of the equation that this seems to me like it is moving down the road of removing it from the equation, which would be a very good thing. That is removing the pharmacy benefit managers. Talk to us about the impact that this is going to have on PBMs.
Well, Amanda, one of the biggest things I want to point to DOJ, talk about a little bit of the government efficiency and stuff like that. One of the biggest thing President Trump has done is he's simplifying the most, the tasks that have been made so difficult, putting us through so many different procedures and so many different processes just to get a simple thing like getting a drug that somebody needs, whether it's diabetes or something along those lines, taking out those extra players that don't need to be in there. So if President Trump does announce this and he announces that these insurance companies could potentially no longer be a thing, it is going to have major impact on everything in America, not just America, but across the world. We heard him talk to French President Macron and telling him that he needs to be more competitive on these things, that American drug prices are extremely expensive, and France needs to rise theirs a little bit in order to compete and in order to compare to the United States.
Yeah. Benny Harmony, Real America's Voice congressional correspondent. Thanks so much for this information. We look forward to hearing more from you after this happens.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. John, good news for the American people when prices go down. The American people have dealt with these high prices for far too long, and it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from the administration, that this is going to cover a plethora of drugs. It's not just going to be the Zofrans of the world, but it's going to be some of the basic things, the basic antibiotics that a lot of Americans are ending up needing right now because there's a bug that's going pretty much across the entire country.
I'm going on tonight. It's going to be live in a couple of minutes. I'm going to go on tonight. I'm going to compare. How am I doing at Walgreens and CVS versus Trump RX? It's going to be interesting to see. I can't wait to see it myself.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wonder if it'll operate similar to those platforms like GoodRx. We shall wait and see. The president's going to be out with that announcement in just a few moments. We're going to take this night and head out, and then we will see you tomorrow.
Freedom to speak your mind. Freedom to protest policies you don't like. Freedom to start a business. Freedom to own property. Freedom to vote. Freedom to flourish. It's easy to take these things for granted, but for many people around the world, freedom is merely a dream, and those who fight for it risk losing everything. Their reputations, their livelihoods, even their lives. Scan the QR code now or visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV today to help freedom become a reality for people fighting back against authoritarianism. With your gift gift of just $19 a month, we'll send you an exclusive Atlas Network hat. Plus, we'll send the print edition of our Freedom's Champion magazine to your door. Atlas Network was founded to help pro-freedom organizations around the world develop, implement, and defend policies that foster freedom against tyranny. Visit atlasnetwork.org/RAV or scan the QR code now to help us make freedom a reality for millions of people around the world. Donate $19 a month to receive your exclusive hat. When the lights go down, the truth comes out.
This is built like a chicken McNugget, but
this is After Hours with Alex Stein. No filter.
You're a globalist. You don't care about America.
No apologies.
You're a pro-abortion when you should have been aborted.
The undisputed king of trolling.
I was recently sexually assaulted within the metaverse.
I want to vaccinate your mom.
They tried to cancel us.
Deplatform.